session.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There was no votes taken in our executive session tonight. Need a motion to seal the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I want to call the Hopkinton Town Council meeting of November 18th, 2019 to order with a moment of silent meditation and salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up is a hearing on 2019 Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management Large Recreation Development Grant. Open a hearing to consider an application for a 2020 Ride-In Large Recreation Development Grant for improvements and modifications to Crandall Field, located at 22 Ashaway Road, identified as Assessor's Plat 2, Lot 3A, 188 Main Street, identified as Assessor's Plat 24, Lot 5, and 190 Main Street, identified as Assessor's Plat 24, Lot 4, and to entertain public comment on the Crandall Field Improvement Project Master Plan. Mr. Lanfear, I know we got our plan in our packet, and you want to just give us and the audience, I guess, an overview?
Yeah, it has become time to replace the existing playground at Crandall Field. It was built in 1993 out of wood. We all know what happens with wood over 27 years, especially pressure-treated wood. It has a tendency to warp, cut, split, crack, and it's time to upgrade it. The existing playground is located right here. It's in a somewhat damp area, wet area. Okay. The plan is to demolish this at some point. That's not part of the grant opportunity, but it will be demolished. And the plan calls to take this tennis court here, which is there's two of them, and they're lightly used. The plan is to take this one here, remove the surface, and put the playground right there. There will be a 10-foot wide stone dust path coming from the playground over to the parking area. There will be drainage put underneath the playground. Crossman Engineering was out there and prepared these plans here and a cost estimate, and found that before we even think about putting a playground in that location, that we have to do something with the drainage. And that drainage will has rows of perforated pipe, and it will be connected over here to a what we believe is a DEM, DOT drainage chamber that comes from Route 3 and kind of discharges into a pond over here. And the interconnection point would be right there. So there's like I said, there's a 10-foot wide straight shot path to the playground. The green in here is room and seed. The playground area itself is 96 by 61. And Mary Sawyer, our recreation director, worked with the Recreation Commission, and I think they've come up with an excellent plan. It's a really attractive playground. Has various rope climbing features. It has a merry-go-round here. It has swings, top swings. Has two slides. One's a double slide. Rock climbing features. You probably get a better idea what it looks like with these renderings right here. As you can see, I feel as though it's pretty impressive. One thing that struck me as I was looking at them today, I didn't really have a chance to go over this with the Rec Commission and Mary, but I feel as though maybe we could beef it up just a little bit with a couple of additional access points for people with disabilities. Right now, we have, one of our slides has a swing, I should say, has the ability to be adapted to a wheelchair type use. And we're also thinking about putting some chimes and some music features low so that people could go right up to it and play from a wheelchair. But as I looked at it, and I'm going to talk with the playground designer before I put this application in, I'd like to see if there isn't a way to gain access to these elevated structures, or at least one of them. I don't believe the whole facility has to be access to people with disabilities. It's kind of impossible to do that with some of the things we have here. But I think because DEM scores these things based upon access, I think we maybe tweak it a little bit more to get some access in there. So, two things tonight I'd like from the council. Number one, to approve that plan, the master plan that I just went over, and also approve submission of a grant in the amount of $400,000 to DEM. Now, the cost estimate that we have prepared by Crossman Engineering for this plan is $361,830. Now, my experience with bidding is, well, quite often bids come in much higher than cost estimates. So we have to be prepared for that. We don't know what the bids are going to come in at. So we're only going to be reimbursed for what we spend anyway. And if we don't use the whole $400,000, they can keep the residual amount. But it's better to be prepared. And like I said, we may have to tweak this a little bit, add a couple of additional features which would raise the cost up a little bit too. But that's the plan right now. If anybody has any questions or comments, we welcome comments tonight too on the plan. If there's anything you feel as though we should add to this, we can certainly do it now.
A couple of questions. First of all, thank you very much for presenting this. Certainly would help the community environment we all seek here. I think it's a good plan. Question I have is, what is the actual surface of the 96 by 64 ground? What is that?
Yes, that would be wood chips. Underneath that.
Okay, thank you.
You were saying that if you don't spend all of the money, it will just return to the state, to the DEM. But I'm wondering if you found, will this allow, if you found that you were running a little bit under budget, that you'd be able to add in some features such as additional access or additional plantings to be able to feel and touch for children that are challenged?
We could certainly do that, yes.
You know, if you found that you were under budget, which probably won't happen.
Yeah, to utilize the $400,000, if we were to get that amount, it would have to be a $500,000 project, because DEM only funds 80% of the total cost of the project. So if this comes in at $400,000 after we beef it up a little bit, the most we're going to get from DEM would be $320,000. So I'd rather have myself covered in terms of money rather than go scratching for it later.
Jim, I just have a question. Brian's here too, but I don't know how much we have in that CIP right now. I think it was around 50,000, 30,000 or 50,000, one of the two, I think. So we'd have to set aside a little bit more money in the next budget cycle, right? To
No, I think we were able to put all the funds we needed for the 20% match in this last budget.
Oh, okay, all right.
So I think you're right, we did 20,000 2 years ago and then 30,000 this past year.
Yeah, that's 50, but we might need more, right? If it's 400, we might need 80.
I
Right, that's 80-20.
I asked Crossman to structure this such that we farm the whole job out in its entirety. However, we can provide in-kind services. For example, the town could demolish the existing tennis court, maybe do some digging for the underground drainage system. So we have the opportunity to, if we can handle the work at that point in time, we
just want to know, are you going to cordon off the old swings so that nobody goes there and gets hurt, or exactly what is the condition of that in regard to safety issues right now until this other thing is built?
I would say that once this new playground is built, and if we get the grant, it should be built in the year 2020 at some point. I think it'd be prudent to cordon off the existing playground at that time when this is built.
But not now.
The town hasn't felt the need to cordon it off yet, so they've had it all summer. So it's up to the town, whatever they want to do.
Well done, thank you very much.
I still have one more question.
And kudos to
I still have one more question.
the rec department, and their commission, who's always been involved for years, so thank you very much.
Dorothy?
I'm just wondering, since we have so darn many dead trees that the town is paying to have cut down, is it possible to have the people that are cutting and chipping those trees donate the chips? Would they meet the specifications for a playground? I mean, we must have a heck of a lot of wood chips coming out of those trees.
It's a good question. They may have to be
I think they have to be a
treated
certain grade,
or a certain grade.
you know, but maybe they could chip them to whatever we need and donate them.
Good question. We can look into that.
Jim, on the second tennis court, I guess, so you say they're not used that much, I guess? I was just wondering why they just didn't replace that and find another place to play skate.
Well, we looked the field over pretty carefully
Yeah.
with Crossman, and as you know, it's a very wet area
Yeah.
all over throughout there, and we were trying to find the driest of the dry to put this, and even there, they recommend putting the underground drainage in. So, and plus the existing tennis court it probably needs repair to play a nice game of tennis with the cracks that are in it and everything. And it's my understanding that they aren't utilized that much. So I think one tennis court would be adequate for the amount of tennis we play. It comes in cycles though, you know, tennis is way too much.
Sure.
The most interesting personality to play tennis in Ashway was Arthur Ashe. I think he played tennis, he certainly visited Ashway before he was so well known.
Okay.
Little trivia.
We have another tennis court at Langworthy that can be used for that purpose. Take up a little
Yeah, I
bit.
just didn't know with all the cost of this whole project, why they just wouldn't, keep the two courts and find another place for it. That's fine. I just questioned whether we could do it, but good. All right. Any other council questions for Jim? Public, yeah.
I'll move that we approve the submission of the 2020 RIDEM Large Recreational Grant, Development Grant in the amount of $400,000 to implement the Crandall Field Improvement Project Master Plan.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Sylvia, you want to do the master plan?
Yes, and I also vote to approve the Crandall Field Improvement Project Master Plan. Period.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Okay, next up, consent agenda. Approved town council meeting minutes of October 28, 2019. Approved town council meeting minutes of November 4th, 2019. Accept the October 7th, 2019 transcript as the record of the decision regarding prohibition of wind turbines. Consider and approve a petition from National Grid to install 7 utility poles and 9 anchors on Dye Hill Road. Accept the following monthly financial activity report, county clerk. I just need to pull November 4th.
And you want to pull the October 7th transfer.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda with November, town council meeting minutes of November 4th and the October 7th transfer pulled.
Second. Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. First up, I had on page 5, November 4th. midway in that paragraph on the bottom, so President Landolfi believed it to be around 31,070 per person. It's 3107, 3,107.
A107.
Correct. Page 5, I think we were.
3107.
Yeah. Which one, Sarah? Which one?
Yeah, October 7th on page 3,
What page?
3 of the transcript. On line 2, it should be Ms. Davis, not Mr. Davis.
Oh, yeah.
That was it.
Nice catch.
You do read. Yeah, I do.
Are you going to be making a motion to accept those?
Yes.
Move that we approve the town council meetings of November 4th and the transcript of October 7th as corrected.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, next, before we start this first public forum, we had a lengthy public forum at the last meeting, over 2 hours. I'm not going to do that again going forward. It was extraordinary circumstances with the project on Route 3. I do have one announcement that was conveyed to the planning department about the access to Route 3. That should be figured out by tomorrow or Wednesday, the latest. So the Route 3 access instead of Maxon Hill access will be opened up this week. Other than that, that's all I have to report on that. Again, we're going to schedule a workshop also tonight to hear, I think, a lot of the questions that came about at that public forum, we can address in that workshop format. So we'll look to schedule that as soon as possible tonight. And then folks will have a chance to certainly talk about that at length as long as they want. So I'm just not going to, again, let that go as long as it did last time, nearly as long. We have other town business we have to conduct, and I'm not going to do that. So anyway, first public forum, anyone wishing to be heard, come to the podium, state your name and address, and briefly what you want to bring to the council's attention.
Hi, my name is Emily Shamshini. I live at 211 Chaseville Road. I'm also an alternate on the planning board. I wanted to read an email to the town council that I sent to the town planner this morning, and then provide a little bit of comment. So my email is, good morning, Jim. I think we all have been made aware recently that it appears that the town building official or department issued a building permit for 310 Main Street on or around September 9th. If true, at the time of the permit issuance, the planning board had not yet had the opportunity to hear any details about the project's reforestation plan. It was on our first agenda, first on our agenda for the October meeting. I was under the impression that solar/building permits could not be issued until all components of a project plan were approved by the planning board. If that is also true, I believe that the issuance of the building permit prior to the approval by the planning board of the project's reforestation plan completely undermines the authority of the planning board and the town. If the building permit was issued by mistake or without the proper authorization, I believe it should be suspended until the planning board approves the project's reforestation plan. I'm hoping for more clarification on this issue before the next planning board meeting in December, or for this to be a topic of discussion at that meeting. Thank you for any information you can provide. Sincerely, Emily. So I know that all of you don't believe the planning board should be undermined and that the planning board is an important body because you told me so when you interviewed me for this position in July. And something else from that time in July stood out to me. Mr. Landolfi commented that he hoped that the business that I own and operate, it's a consulting business, not like I have like a store or anything. He worried that I would be too busy to meet the obligations of the planning board, or that my business would be busy, and that I just wouldn't find time. And so I just wanted to share that last month, or earlier this month, I was at a conference in Portland, Maine. I traveled up there to present my work on coastal and ocean planning that I do. And it was about looking forward to 2050. It was called Gulf of Maine 2050, so it was all about climate change. It was a really cool conference. Anyway, I traveled back. I left the conference early. It was a Monday through Friday conference, and I traveled back on Wednesday to be at the planning board meeting just 2 weeks ago to participate. And it ended up being important that I participated because one of the sitting planning board members was unable to attend that meeting, so I was moved from alternate position up to the table. And it was at that meeting that a lawyer for the developer for 310 Main Street, whoever that is, kind of like wagged his finger at our face in the planning board and said, it doesn't matter what you say, we're going to be able to do whatever we want at this project, and you can't stop us. And I was just, that was like one of the most insulting things anyone's ever said to me professionally. And I wanted to share that with you. I took a lot of time to leave my conference early and participate and do, I volunteered for the planning board, and that's how we were treated. And I don't think our town should stand for that. And I just wanted to say that today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to refer Ms. Mencia. I apologize, remarks to our solicitor to respond to the town council, either privately or publicly, whatever he deems appropriate. Thank you.
That project is in Superior Court. We're not going to do it today or here. It's going to be in court. If Kevin wants to respond in some fashion, that's fine. You can do that.
Please do.
Anyone else?
My advice would be to not respond to that. So.
Yeah, no, I want to do it tonight, so that's fine. Anyone else for the first public? Yes, sir, Joe.
Anyone else want to go first?
Just a few minutes, Joe. We got a lot of business to get.
Okay. Joe Moreau, Old Depot Road. This is my time here. I'm glad, Frank, that you clarified about the access from Maxon Hill, and that should be done by Wednesday, as you pointed out. We were also told at the last council meeting that the hours of operation for this project were Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and no weekends. I was recently told by several residents and abutters of Maxon Hill area that this schedule was not being followed. I believe what I was told, but I wanted to see it for myself. So this morning, I was there at 6:58 in the morning. There were 2 pickup trucks already parked at the entrance. A piece of the heavy equipment had already been moved. There were 2 men there speaking. I parked 3 telephone poles down. I had my window down, and I could hear this conversation. 709 green development truck went in there, a car went in there, 725. 729, Kent County oil truck backed into that project. And all you could hear was the beep, beep, beep at 7:29 in the morning. He was there for a short time. I heard him again moving throughout the project. I could hear the clanking of the hoses on the equipment that they were restocking. There were several diesel trucks that went into that area that you could hear. The bottom line is that there were 11 vehicles that pulled into that from 6:58 to 7:55. There was also a lot of traffic on that road. I was concerned when I saw 2 school buses trying to navigate that road with these vehicles that were pulling in the road also. For informational purposes, I would like to know what the town council and other elected officials are going to do to stop the violations of these time restrictions.
Again, Joe, this project is in court. We're not going to.
That's not an operational
It's in court.
It doesn't have anything to do with it.
Again, let me finish. Jim Lanfear offered his office if anybody had any questions about anything. Now, if there's someone that's operating without, not within the timeframes that the town has allocated, then that's a building and zoning issue. They can go and cite them. So the complaint needs to be lodged to the building and zoning.
I did send an email to Jim as usual, he responded back to me that he received my email. You know, I went through this whole thing about public forum. I gave you some information on the public forum.
Joe, again, and
This is a different question, Frank. I would like to have an answer
Well,
to.
again, I just answered your question. It's a zoning issue. If they're not operating within the confines of what we set forth, then it's a zoning violation. Someone needs to complain to the building and zoning.
Are the zoning employees town officials, correct?
Yes.
You were elected to represent the residents
It's a
of
zoning
Hopkinton.
issue, Joe.
It's also a police matter in some instances,
Police
and
were
I've
called.
told the neighbors that
Police
they
were
have
called.
to
One
call
at a time, please.
They can call the police, and which they have done.
It's a zoning issue, too. Have the complaint, if you're the complainant, then you can complain to the building and zoning, file a complaint that they're not operating on the confines of what we've approved. Okay? They'll be cited. That's how it works.
Well, the information I gave you on public forum clearly states for informational purposes that we can have questions asked. I know you just mentioned the question that was asked, you couldn't answer it because it's a court case. But yet we get into this conversation at one of these meetings, and I question the fact that it was during a public forum, and why are we having this conversation? And I was told it was a legal matter, and you
We're
can
not going to do
discuss
it.
it.
We're not going to do it. Do
Okay.
you have anything new to bring to the council's attention, other than 310 Main Street?
You know, in the past year, believe it or not, I went from not having a cell phone to being on what I call bookface. I know it's Facebook, but. And when I looked at, I only have 2 sites that I looked at. When I look at the issues that the residents are raising about this project, other solar projects, it's just incredible. And now I get pushed to building and zoning to ask a question or answer my question. So I guess the last comment I want to make is that if you were elected to represent us, whether you were on this council that voted for 310 Main Street or you were not on the council, whether you voted yes or you voted no, you are our elected officials that sit before us, and when we ask a question, we should have an answer. I should not be continually deferred. And the 4 or 5 things that I have pending now, still don't have an answer on all these things. I'm not going to repeat them. But I would wish that someone on this town council would have the chutzpah to stand up and say, let him speak, or let's answer the question.
Joe, that's not the point. You've spoken plenty. The point is,
I don't get answers.
the point is, you can call me or email me anytime and I respond to you.
You do it, there's no
If
question.
you have any questions, you know you can call me, and I usually will have the answer for you. It doesn't have to be public forum.
It does to be on the record, and that's my concern.
But if you have questions, I can answer them. So what's your motivation? If you want to answer, I'll give it to you. But it just won't be in
I
the
just
comment.
asked the
It's not on the
question, I
agenda,
was
Joe.
referred to building and zoning.
Right, so that's your answer.
Which that department is still short-staffed, so I don't know who I should speak to with building and
Sherry's
zoning.
there. She's a
And now
full-time.
she's going to be responsible for stopping it. The police can't do it. They were already called.
Could we stop for a moment and think? And when it's a weekend, if something happens anywhere in town, and town officials, like the building and zoning, for instance, isn't available, you call the police. If you think something's happening that's illegal with a development or a neighbor, you call the police, whether it's a dog issue or a development issue. So you call the police check it out, and then a report is generated, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, during the week, if you think they're violating anyone, any development, any neighbor who's putting a septic system in and they're not supposed to, whatever's going on, if you think there's a problem with just a development, like the council president said, you pick up the phone and you call Sherry, Building and Zoning, because she's the zoning official. If something's being violated in town, you call her, and whether it's the building inspector or the zoning inspector, somebody goes out and checks. There's your second way. The other thing is, of course, people can call any one of us, and when I've talked to you individually, Joe, every single question you've asked me individually, I've answered.
Absolutely.
We'll do the best we can to answer questions, and also know that at the end of our agenda is to set a workshop where a lot of questions are going to come up, and we're gonna have answers, or we're gonna hear what the questions are and we'll get answers. There you go.
But I think, I just want to say one thing that's very crucial. The town of Hopkinton, anybody does business in the town of Hopkinton, they are permitted by the state of Rhode Island to operate a business, and their business is current, and they have all the respective licenses. There is a concern about some businesses operating without the proper credentials. Thank you.
Just the last thing I want to say, and there's someone else that could speak to this if they choose. The police were called, and from what I was told, again, this is what I was told, the police said there really isn't anything that we can do about this. So, I don't know. I did not hear it.
Well, what can you, yes, ma'am. You
I
gotta
just
come to
want
the podium, please.
I just have a quick question, a comment actually. You know, you keep answering these people with, you can email me at any time, I'll answer your questions one-on-one. But their questions are my questions, and I'm sure everyone here has the same questions.
Well, that's why we're gonna schedule a workshop. I got a lot of questions at the last public forum, over 2 hours. And Sylvia and Sharon had suggested, well, they had further questions about particular solar-related activities. So I suggested we do a workshop. It's a less formal process where everyone can talk as long as they want and air it all out. So.
Because I mean, I've been hearing a lot of questions, but not a lot of answers, so hopefully it's
Well, again, if it's not specifically on the agenda, we can't really talk about it that much. We can take it, and I decided because of the length of the public forum last time and the questions that were raised, I felt it prudent to do a workshop so we can answer all those. As best we can. Yes, sir.
My name is Ron Sheldon. I'm the property abutter to Maxim Hill. I live on Collins Road. I haven't heard the answer to the question yet. I don't know how much time all these people have here to come to a workshop. We come to these meetings. You people were entrusted with our town to make these decisions, and you've done a pretty poor job of it. By all the number of people that are coming here, it's just disgusting. But this is my question. Every time I came, I keep hearing previous town council approved this mess, Maxim Hill. Are you following me? So, for clarification, that was the prior town council approved it.
Correct.
You, and Mrs. Thompson, voted for that. Yes. So please tell me.
It's in litigation. We're not.
No, excuse me. You haven't answered the question yet. You voted yes on this. Please tell me in some resemblance of how you thought that was good for town of Hopkinton and the abutters.
I will do
This is devastation. No, I'm not coming to workshop. We're here tonight. I want to get an answer.
I'm not talking about 310 Main
If
Street.
you can't talk about it, you can't talk about it.
I can talk about it at the workshop, at the workshop, at the workshop, at the workshop. We'll answer questions.
Mr. Sheldon, you're out of order, please.
You destroyed this town.
Yeah, okay.
There's a reason we did it.
Have a seat. Thank you.
Yeah.
There is a reason.
It's a prior approved project.
Yeah.
Tell me
It's
that, please.
revenue. It's revenue.
So you cut down
Mr. Sheldon, you've had enough. Chief.
You cut
Mr.
down
Sheldon.
100 acres of trees for money.
Not 100 acres.
Mr. Sheldon, you're gonna have to leave. We'll talk at the. Mr. Sheldon, you have to sit down, please. That's fine. You'll have to have a seat. We will not talk about 310 Main Street tonight. It's in litigation and we cannot talk about it. Yes,
That's not true.
it's in court.
That's a lie.
It's in court.
It doesn't mean you can't
It's
talk
in
about
court.
it. You got
It's in
on the
court.
table. It doesn't
It's in
matter.
court.
It doesn't mean
It's
you
in
can't
court.
talk about it.
Luann, you're out of order. It's in court. We cannot talk about it.
You can talk
No,
about
I
it.
can't.
You talked about it last week.
No, we're not talking about it. Yes,
You're
ma'am.
lying.
Yeah, my name is Jean Clemente, live on Town McCloud Road. I just have a question about the whole workshop thing. Shouldn't this all been done ahead of time? No homework was done
Well, this
on your part,
Yeah.
on solar projects. You seem like you don't know crap about it, and now it's too late, and the rest of, all these people are suffering
Any
because what's
any
going on.
project that was
That's
approved had numerous hearings.
That's right.
When we were voted down.
Input was there. I didn't hold back anybody on public forum, on public hearings, nothing. Okay, this is a prior approved council project. It's complete. It's now in litigation in Superior Court. We cannot talk about it. And we're not going to litigate it here at a council meeting, I can assure you that. We're not the ones that brought the suit forward. We're not the ones that brought the suit forward. Senator Morgan, briefly, please. No, nothing about 310 Main. We can't talk.
No, this is about Maxon Hill.
You can talk about
Lane
anything you want. If they choose not to talk to you, that's fine. They can't tell you you can't talk about it.
That's right.
This
The open
is,
meeting law does not allow them to
Eric,
include you.
I don't need an
Talk about
education
anything
on
you want.
public
I got a copy of it. You want it?
I don't need it from you. Thank you.
okay, I have a few questions on rezoning. In the future, are you planning on rezoning any other properties that are already, that are zoned residential?
No.
Okay, very good. Secondly, on the Maxon Hill project, I don't know if this has been addressed yet or not, but it will be a future problem if we don't address it now. The high-intensity wires that will be coming into the neighborhood. I've been working with, well, National Grid, I've been corresponding with them, and they have not put the plan in place yet. They've put a road, but I would like to see these wires put into the, because I don't want them next to, in our residential area. We need to make them go out towards the Route 3 area. We need them possibly in the middle of the property to the end, so I don't know when this is going to come about. They haven't designed the plan yet. That's what I'm told from National Grid and our liaisons at the State House. So we need to address that before they do make the plan, because these wires coming in they cause cancer. They have issues in residential neighborhoods, so we need to address that. And I'm glad you're not going to rezone any
Feel
residential.
free to reach out to Jim.
I've been on the phone with Jim.
He'll have the plan.
Yeah, he doesn't have a plan. He didn't even realize that National Grid hadn't designed a plan yet.
Oh.
So they haven't done it yet, so we need to be involved in that plan. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, Eric.
All right, I'm going to start with something obvious. The first thing is, this is a democratic government here. This is a democratic local legislature. And a democratic body, the public body, does the people's business in public. A democratic body does not instruct people to leave the public meeting, refrain from discussing issues that matter to the entire community in front of their fellow residents, and email any one of you privately with their grief so that no one else benefits from sharing in these concerns, okay? So that is just absurd. That's not how it should be, okay? Secondly, I'm looking at the agenda here for your workshop and the way you served it up. Well, let me back up one step.
Eric, just address the board.
I am addressing the
Okay.
board. Do you not see me here?
No.
Okay, I'm addressing you, and I'm addressing every single town council member, because according to the public meeting law, and I can read the section if you want, I'm entitled to address my comments to any member, and any one of them is entitled to answer me on any informational question. Any individual member, they don't have to go through the presiding officer. All right, now I did ask that this topic be put on the agenda today, and you don't have a busy calendar of business tonight. You have a light calendar of business, and there's a second public forum, so if you finish your business early, maybe we can get to some of this. But as you know, and I copied every member of this town council, including councilors Thompson and Davis, and I asked that it be put on the agenda for the express purpose that if it's not on the agenda, then you can't engage with us. And you also can't engage with each other and make any decisions and come up with any solutions. And you chose to exercise your authority as the president setting the agenda to exclude it from the agenda for the express purpose of preventing the people in this room from engaging with their elected representative on this topic. That's what you did. You as much as said it.
I have another thought.
Then you get your workshop. Right? You're going to get out your calendars, and you're going to put some date on the calendar at some future date. These people have real problems that are happening every day to them. And you're gonna get out your calendars and pick some date in December, and then the way you've served it up is that you want to discuss and consider and possibly vote to set a date for a workshop. By the way, the rules of a workshop are that you can't take any actions at a workshop. It would be nice if you could listen to your constituents and deliberate about some action. And then it says to generally review ongoing and planned efforts and initiatives by the town in areas of general PSES solar project reforestation and decommissioning. These people didn't come here to discuss general issues. They came here to discuss with you all the violations and the total debacle at 310 Main Street, you know? And not for nothing, on all these subsequent solar projects, we've heard you talk about buffers of hundreds of feet. Yet you had the town planner, Jim Lamphere, stand up here and say, well, I went out and measured and they're within the 25-foot setback of a commercial property. That was a huge mistake. I've never heard one single utterance of remorse or regret or apology or anything from any member of this town council for having completely blown it on this early project and let the developer clear cut right up to the property line. Now I know this is in litigation, and I'm not one of the litigants, but I'm involved, I support it, trying to raise money for it, because you are forcing your constituents to pass the hat and raise money and contest your serial violations of the law as alleged. Okay, I know you disagree with that. This suit was filed on January 9th, 2019. Now, some of the things that people want to talk about in this room certainly were not named in the suit because they are operational and administrative issues that occurred after January 9th. Okay, quite a bit. 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, okay? So they don't refer to any aspect of the complaint which states all the facts in the complaint and makes the allegations, okay? So you're not jeopardizing yourself by discussing events that occurred then, okay? Now I do have some factual questions which you're not going to answer, and I have asked them of the town planner and I haven't gotten any response, and I have asked those questions of the building inspector and I haven't gotten any response. And I have asked those questions of every member of the town council and I have not gotten a response. Nor have you, to my knowledge, referred any of these questions to the appropriate party and asked them to provide me with an answer. Instead, you're just cowering under your all-purpose defense that it's in litigation and you must not discuss it. And I have factual questions about factual matters. So one of them is, who owns the PSES at 310 Main Street?
Eric, we're not going to answer that.
I'm not going to answer it now, but if I send you an email, you'll answer me? I mean, who's going to answer the factual question of who owns the project? Is that a matter of litigation or is that a fact?
Kevin, you want to?
Is that a fact?
Is it you?
We'll find it at the workshop.
This is an attempt on your part.
Are you ascribing motives to me? I am
Yes, I
asking
am.
factual questions.
Let him talk. My advice to the town officials and the town employees
Why
is
don't
to
you
not
stick to your
answer
advice to
any
the town
questions
instead of
from
mine?
anybody
Okay.
on Maxon Hill because it's in litigation.
Right.
This council has approved the project. There's a challenge pending in court where the challengers, who you've just, again, advised us you're helping fundraise the money for, have hired a lawyer. These issues will be determined by the court, in court. They won't be litigated here in town.
Okay.
And end around the rules of civil procedure, the rules of professional responsibility that govern lawyers, but not non-lawyers like yourself. There's discovery processes that will be undertaken in court, not here in the public forum. This is a misuse and abuse of the opportunity the public has at public forum, and it's wrong.
Are the people in this...
So my advice to the council is not to answer any questions, factual, legal, or otherwise, pertaining to this project in this forum.
Okay, so I've made a series of public records requests. I have not received an answer to my public records request. Now, when I ask for a record, I think I'm owed a response, litigation or not, as to whether, if it's a public record, I should get it. If it's not, I get a response. Is that
Can I
correct?
just answer this? I'm not going to get no back and forth with you, but
Yeah.
isn't it a fact that the time for the town responding to those requests has not yet expired? Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And they're pending. So you're making a criticism that
Well,
is a false
we're
criticism.
about a day away. Okay.
You're making a criticism that is not fair.
Let me also, Kevin, if I can interject. Also, too, I think you tried to circumvent the clerk's office by sending the request to other department heads and not the clerk's office. That should not happen, you know that.
I sent it to both, Frank.
You sent it to Sherry Desjardins and to someone else, and not the clerk.
Well, you've asked us to ask the
No,
the
but when
building
you ask for
inspector on
open
that.
records, it always goes through the clerk, and you know that. You know that.
That's a recent directive that you made.
It's not recent, you know that.
Okay, well, you know what, Frank? Then the building inspector can refer that to the town clerk, okay? That's your internal policy.
It's the
Is
policy.
that policy on the town website?
Yes.
Yes, it is, and that's a matter of state law, that the town has a responsibility under the access to public records to designate a person to receive these requests.
All right, it doesn't.
And you've correctly followed that process numerous times in the past, but for some reason in this project, you've chosen not to do that. I don't understand that, but that's up to you. But the state law requires it to be funneled through the official representative of the town to receive these requests, which is the town clerk, period.
Well, if you want to know, I sent the request to the building inspector for one document because the town clerk was on vacation. So she.
Okay, do you have anything new for us, sir? Because we have other business we have to attend to, please.
Okay, I just want to note for the record that this is a general point here on the PSES ordinance. This is the one that was in effect prior to the one that was enacted in January. And in section D, it states that documentation in the form of an affidavit from the property owner evidencing the applicant's control of the project site for the purpose, construction, and operating of, and maintaining of the PSES shall be provided to the planning board prior to approval. So I don't know if there's any members of the planning board here tonight, but I'm just thinking for all PS, this is the same in both ordinances, but I'm hoping that we'll be diligent in terms of reading this entire PSES and making sure, because this is the ordinance that the town council, as you've told us, has labored so mightily to produce and then worked so diligently to revise in January. So I would just like to know that provisions like the affidavit certifying that the applicant actually controls the project has been provided to the planning board on this and every future project before it's finally approved. And I would also like to know that I hope that the planning board, before sending a letter of certification, or before the town planner sends a letter to the building inspector certifying that all approvals have been met, I would hope that the planning board would be diligent in assuring that, as it says in section 13.5-70 of the Code of Ordinances, that every application to the building inspector for a building permit shall be accompanied by a statement in writing from the town planner that the said plan meets all the specific applicable requirements of this ordinance. And one of the requirements would be obviously that it has to meet all the requirements of the PSES ordinance. So since I don't think that the town council has shown that it's particularly interested that all of these rules are being followed, and since this does refer to the planning board, I hope the planning board will certainly be diligent in reading the fine print of the ordinance and making sure all those things are followed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I get time for one more before we get in. One more, please. One more. We have another quote?
I understand. So I get, I'm Justin Bentley, 138 Maxonville Road. I know there's litigation. I know we're not allowed to talk about it. I'm obviously very jaded, upset, let down, but I appreciate there's going to be a workshop, and I know that we can't discuss anything now. I understand that fully, but I really find it hard to believe that at the workshop you'll be able to discuss anything, any concerns. So we're hiding behind the fact it's a litigation now. we're gonna hide behind the fact that it's in litigation in the workshop. We can't get anything done at the workshop. Meanwhile, full steam ahead, as the lawyer told us, as Emily pointed out, I don't care what you say and do, we're gonna go ahead and build it. So the project will be built. Who knows what's gonna happen, we can't discuss it. But what will be the point of for you to say we can discuss it at the workshop? Will you be able to at that point?
Yeah. Again, we had a lot of concerns and questions at the public forum last time. So about, why would you support something like this? It's not going to be specifically related to Maxon Hill. It'll be a general conversation about, because a lot of folks haven't participated in the process going forward. So just to explain, and obviously get the transcript from the public forum last time, there was a lot of questions raised, and we want to try and attempt to answer those. So that's kind of what my thoughts were.
And I understand.
And Sharon and Sylvia wanted something also, so I thought it was best. It's a less formalized process, and we can, yell at each other if we want to.
But there is, we can talk about the plans. We don't have to get into the details of the suit, whether it's this, or everything brought up in the suit. We can talk about the plans. What are the setbacks? How many trees did they cut down? What did they say they were going to do? So we can talk about the plans and what they plan to do. So that's okay.
And I definitely thank you, and I appreciate that. But just a gentle reminder that while we're waiting and while we're talking, they're doing, and it's done. So we can talk about the setbacks and the issues, but it'll already be built at that point. So it's just a concern I wanted to relay to you. So I appreciate the workshop.
Yes, ma'am. You in the back, please. One more, that's it, please, then we're going to get going.
My name's Jennifer Collins. I live at 121 Collins Road, and I guess I'm an unfamiliar face in this town council with all of this business that's going on. So I just wanted to come up here and say this is the first time of my involvement in working with the town council, coming to meetings because of this Maxon Hill situation. It's opened my eyes. And I've never attended town council meetings before, unfortunately. But all I can say is that I'm just kind of appalled at how these proceedings go forward and how the town council reacts to the residents of this town. I can't believe it, because you're supposed to be helping and working with us, and there just seems to be such an adversarial tone going on here. And as a member of this community since 1990, my husband is born and raised in Ashway. I'm really appalled. I really am. And I hope that we can get better through this, and this workshop thing helps to sort out, and everybody gets a little more.
That's the intent. That's the intent. Thank you. Okay. One more, Dorothy. That's it. You've spoken a lot. Dorothy, please.
There's no control of this, see?
Oh my God!
Yes, Dorothy.
You have property to be sold?
I was very happy to hear that you represent all of the residents. I hope that as a town council, you consider other residents like me with light here, who have tracts of land, who no longer can look forward to putting up a wind turbine or a small area of solar. And when I'm talking about 60 acres that I own, well, someone else may own 100 acres. Somebody else may own 40 acres. Right now, these people are getting too old to farm. It's difficult to have the state come in and do your forestry plans. I mean, you can do it, but then you have to follow through and watch the people that are cutting and clearing and making trails. And we have neither kith nor kin to take over this land for us. So it's really, a lot of the older residents in town are stuck. There's no other way to put it. Other people who don't pay the taxes, who like to look at trees, feel that they have the right to tell us what we must do with our land. They even say, we don't want you to cut the trees down. We don't want you to make a farm and have animals. We think you should leave the trees up. So when you have your workshop, I ask that you also put some thought into what's going to happen in the future for people like myself and other people who own land who don't have anyone to pass it on to. I mean, my children have gone and made careers out of state. One's a computer geek and she knows every language in the world and flies around the world to set up new businesses. The other one is a midwife and she's working on an Indian reservation. They're not going to come home anytime soon. And talking to other people who own tracts of land, who are in my age group, I'm going on 80 years old. I'm not going to be out there driving a tractor, I can assure you. What would you expect the town to offer for these people, pay their taxes, to keep their home? I don't know. You know, to prevent other people from telling them what to do with their property. I'm sure that if I told someone who lives in a ranch house that I don't like ranch houses and from now on you're going to have to add a second story, or we don't like Cape Cods anymore, tear off the top, they would be outraged. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Carol.
You never could put a solar farm on residential property
Pardon?
or a wind turbine. You never had the right to put a solar farm or a wind turbine on a residential property.
That's correct, I don't have the right anymore.
No one took it away.
We never
You
had it.
Folks, come on.
The town at one time assessed my property $719,000 because they thought it was commercial.
Carol DeRozier, Pleasant View Drive.
Yes, sir.
I labored on whether or not I was going to say what I had presented, but seeing what has transpired tonight, I have to. So I am very concerned that residents of the town have been continuously stifled in trying to address issues important to us. Especially concerning is the unwillingness of our town council president to honor requests from the public to add topics to town council meeting agendas. It's been a recurring issue. As public servants or elected officials, the town council should be encouraging and acting upon requests from the public. Unfortunately, this has not been the case with the current town council president, who controls what will and will not be on the agenda. As new groups of residents begin to participate in town council meetings, frustration continues to grow with the actions of the council. A recently created Facebook page, Hopkinton Community, Rhode Island, has quickly grown to over 620 members. And not surprisingly, the amount of solar development in town has been a hot topic. And the anti-spot zoning solar petition has recently received approximately 100 new signatures without any concerted effort to republish it, so we're well over 700. More and more people are becoming aware of the actions of the council and are angry. Some feedback from Facebook relative to the last town council meeting. Quote, the town council president seemed not to care at all about our concerns. He was dismissive and basically gave off the vibe that there is nothing any of us can do about this. He was also dismissive of his fellow town council members, actually telling multiple members at different times to stop talking, and dismissing Mrs. Davis, telling her he was running the meeting, which I found so rude and unprofessional. I urge anyone who was not there last night to please review the video of the meeting last night. It was really eye-opening to see how much some of our town council members care about the community. This is just one of many such assertions that the town council doesn't care what the majority of taxpayers want. In light of the town council president being completely unwilling to allow and engage the public in topics they raise, I have to say, if you don't want to represent or are unwilling to represent the people of this town and serve as a true public official, then you should resign. You seem to have forgotten that you are in your position to steward the desires of residents and represent their interests, not your own or those of developers. Something needs to change, and we have to rely on our elected officials to act or move on. The public has no ability to invoke a recall in this town, unfortunately. So we need to plead to those town council members who truly care about the residents of this town to take some action on our behalf. If the president will not resign, I ask that you make a motion to remove him as president of the town council. Considering that the current president received the second least amount of public votes, it's odd that he is leading the council. But of course, this means that he would have to allow it as an agenda item.
Many residents are waiting for the next election to make significant changes in our town leadership. It's your choice if you have the wherewithal to do something meaningful in support of the residents of this town now.
Just so everyone knows, I do have a lot of input and say on what goes on the agenda. It's official town business. I don't take requests from the public to put something on the agenda. I took comments from elected officials on the body about various issues, and I did the best I could in formulating an agenda item for a workshop. So that's what I did. I didn't do anything to disrespect anyone at the last public forum. I let them go as long as I could, and I take exception to your comments about me not dismissive, because I let people talk for 2 hours, and I took that to heart. I took that to heart and made some adjustments and decided to put an agenda item for a workshop, even though some may think it's not something that you can talk about anything. I think it's a valued item on the agenda, and we will schedule it to address everyone's concerns. All right, that's up to the public forum right now anyway. Next up, new business, discuss, consider, and possibly vote to authorize the town manager to forward correspondence to Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management supporting the Charahoe Regional School District's grant application to RIDEM for a Recreation Acquisition and Development Grant Program Award to improve Richmond Elementary School property, including recreational facilities, which will be primarily for non-school use and allow unfettered use by the public. Bill.
Thank you. On November 7th, Ms. Susan Rogers of Charahoe requested a letter of support from the Hopkinton Town Council to support the appeal from the town of Richmond for a Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management Recreation Acquisition and Development Grant Award. I attached the award to the letter to the request and forwarded to the council. I drafted the letter and can't sign it until we get council approval. It's strictly for the town of Richmond. It's a letter of support as requested from the Charahoe Regional School District.
So, Bill, I just had one quick question. I guess to the extent you know, when we apply for RIDEM grants, we don't need any other support from any other communities. I guess I'm just wondering, is it because of the regional school district that Richmond feels that, or Charahoe feels that we need to do this, I guess? And
I asked her that. I had sent her an email, and basically it's not mandatory that they receive letters of support, but it does help their cause when they consider the grant.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Bill?
I think, from memory, they put in once before, because it's competing funds, and when we put in, one of the times when we put in for the playground gym down at Hope Valley, when we put in for that one, Charahoe had also had a grant in at the same time for something at the high school. And they had to do with the football or recreation, but anyway, and they didn't get the grant, and we did. So I don't feel that we're competing with them, and I think that if Richmond needs work on their playground, and if we can get a grant to do it, and Charahoe can get that, then it's less money out of the budget, and I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Anything else? Sharon? Stop.
I move that the Hopkinton Town Council authorize the town manager to forward correspondence to RIDEM supporting the Charahoe Regional School District's grant application to RIDEM for a Recreational Acquisition and Development Grant Program Award to improve the Richmond Elementary School property, including recreational facilities which will be primarily for non-school use and allow unfettered use by the public.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next up, discuss, consider, and possibly vote to authorize the town manager to enter into a 3-year agreement with Constellation from December 2019 to December 2022 to provide electricity for the town at a fixed rate as determined on November 19, 2019. Brian also.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, so it's that time again. Our 3-year contract with Direct Energy expires in December of this year, so next month. So we're looking to lock into another electric supply contract. There's a program, for those of you that aren't familiar, that's put together by the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns called the REAP program. And it's basically, they source all the towns and municipalities in the state, and there's 36 cities and towns that partake in the program, and it basically just strengthens our buying power. So they go out and they try to get us the best rate possible. The REAP program is actually gave the contract to Constellation. They're currently offering a rate of $8.10 per kilowatt, and I think that's by far our best option.
Not per kilowatt.
Per megawatt. Oh, yeah, I sure hope it's per megawatt.
Yeah.
Is that the state?
Yeah. It's a fixed rate for 3 years, and National Grid is much higher. I've also got quotes from Direct Energy, and they're offering by far the best rate.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Brian, the Finance Director? Okay. Bill was kind enough to put a motion down the bottom of,
I didn't.
oh, yeah, good.
Is there a reason why you picked 3 years versus 42?
Yeah, they lowered the rate based on the year. I met with Constellation and Power Option, who is another company that's partnering with Constellation to get them the contract in the REAP program. And they, they put on a full presentation for me. I think that it's the longer term you lock in, the lower the rate.
Except on this one, on the 42 months, it's higher than the 36.
No.
Yes, unless that's a typo. So you picked the
Oh,
right
the
number.
42 is longer.
Yeah, but the rate is not lowered.
Oh, right,
That's what I'm
exactly.
saying.
And that's why I'm recommending the 36.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
surprised.
Yep.
they didn't.
And the other reason I picked the 36 is because the REAP program only signed a contract with Constellation for 3 years. So they'll be redoing that contract around that time. So, we don't want to make the assumption they're going to give the contract to Constellation again.
Okay.
So at that point in time, we'll go out and work with Rhode Island and meet the cities and towns to see who they recommend as the lowest provider.
You guys see the motion?
Move that the Hopkinton Town Council vote to authorize the town manager to enter into a 3-year agreement with Constellation from December 2019 to December 2022 to provide electricity to the Hopkinton town at a rate of $8.
Well,
Or you want just a fixed rate?
Yeah, just a fixed rate because they have to lock
At
it
the
today.
fixed rate as determined on November 19th, 2019. Okay.
Okay, motion made and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Brian. Okay. Okay, next up, at the suggestion of council members Davis and Thompson, we want to consider and possibly vote to set a date for a council workshop to generally review ongoing and planned efforts and initiatives by the town in the areas of general PSES solar project reforestation and decommissioning, bonding guarantees, general economic development planning in Hopkinton, projected educational costs, as well as the town and state revenues. Lisa, what are your thoughts?
You're going to be trying to stay with a Monday, or you want me to just review a few?
Well, good. I've got a comment. I talked to Lisa today, and she informed me that on the 25th, we have a hearing, okay?
Of what, November?
In November, next Monday,
Next Monday,
we have a meeting. So I was hoping that we could pick another day that week, so we could get to this workshop.
Okay, Tuesday night, I always work. And,
So what days are available
That week?
That week.
Thanksgiving.
It is Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, why don't we do it at Thanksgiving?
A lot of people travel.
Yeah, no.
No, that week, no, Tuesday or. All right, well,
Sounds like you're going into December.
I can,
the best I can do is whenever meeting you, unless we can do it I talked to Lisa also to see if we could have the agenda light on the 2nd and have it that night. We could have a council meeting and then go into a workshop. Or we could have a workshop and then go into the council meeting. Either way, there isn't any hearing scheduled for December 2nd, right? We don't have any hearings?
The only hearing that may be on there is if there's a holiday sale.
That would be
10 years.
quick.
That would be quick.
Let's do
Yeah,
it
yeah.
then.
So let's do it that night? Good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That would be Monday, December 2nd.
Good. And we'll let you guys work out well, there's a lot of folks here tonight. Would it be at the beginning of the meeting workshop, or do you want to do it at the end of the council meeting?
I'd rather get through the council meeting first and then just have a workshop right after.
All right.
Can we do the council meeting instead? Oh, never mind. We already have something scheduled.
Yeah, I'd like to,
Good, so we'll have it the 2nd?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
What did you say, Scott?
I would like to add something, if it's agreeable, that we make sure that anybody that does business in the town, any developer, that we have a procedure, we definitely ascertain whether or not they're licensed to do work in the state of Rhode Island. I think that's crucial. And I'd like to see that added.
You don't need to,
That's
it's
part
come
of
up,
it.
it's
Yeah,
part of
that's
it.
part of it. That's part of it. That's part of why we wanted that.
So we'll try and keep it light, I guess, for 12/2,
Yeah.
and then we'll do it right after. So we'll start at 7, I guess, and then most likely around 7:30 start, right?
Yes.
Yeah, good, all right.
It doesn't look like it's not
12/2 here, yeah, 12/2, that's 7 and then 7:30 workshop.
Good, all right.
Okay? Okay, that's that. Last public forum. Yes, Lynn.
I just have a quick question. Lynn McCormick from Lisa Lane. I just have a quick question. Because my heart just really goes out to the people in Maxon Hill for what's going on. And I think that, I know that if that was my house and my property right up against there, that I would want some answers. So there's never been any very clear information given about what do they do. People say, well, call the police. The police aren't going to do anything if the police don't know what the rules are. So to call the police is ineffectual.
That's part of why we should have this thing.
Right, but that is
Because
2 weeks from
I
now.
want to know.
This is 2 weeks from now. So and there's a lot going on over there. So what do they do now? What do they do?
What does who do?
The people who live on Maxim Hill.
As we said earlier, if they do call the police will generate a report. If there's work, if somebody shows up at 6 in the morning on a Saturday, or whatever time on a Saturday, and they're working in there, and somebody makes a call, the police are gonna get in there and generate a report.
But are they going to stop it?
That's something that's gonna have to be figured out, honestly. I don't have an answer for that.
Bill, do you want to weigh in on that?
It would be stopped. I don't know if it would be stopped that day.
The manager can weigh in on that.
Generally speaking, what happens is the report to the police is solely for documentation purposes, and that report is should be then forwarded either to my office and then to planning, or directly to planning on the following day that they're open. I would suggest that Jim monitor that like he's been doing every Friday, going up there to discuss that with them. Last Friday I was up there with Jim Lamphere, myself, Sherry Desjardins, and we had a long talk with them as far as getting off Maxon Hill Road and getting out to Route 3. Like was discussed earlier, Mike Dupree, the engineer up there, assured us that realistically that there will be no more truck traffic on Maxon Hill Road as of the close of business tomorrow. He said it may extend into Wednesday, but that will be the extent of it. And when I went by there this morning, and by Route 3, not on Maxon Hill, but Route 3, there was a lot more activity on Route 3 than I've seen since it's opened. So that's where it stands right now.
So they should call the police.
Excuse me?
So people should call the police.
People should call the police, and that's strictly for documentation purposes. It's got to go to either my office or planning after that, and then we address it first day back to work. And Jim has done a great job on that. I got to give him credit. He's been right on top of that, and he'll continue to be on top of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chief.
Just to add to what the town manager said, I know it was mentioned earlier that someone had called the police department, said that there was nothing they could do. I'm going to put out a directive tomorrow to explain to them to respond out there for a report writing purposes. We can stop it if it's before 8 o'clock, if we know it's 8 o'clock. However, just recognize the position of the police department as we're neutral on this, unless it's criminal. And so far, in all the meetings that I've attended, I have not heard anything that was criminal. You can always email me at chief@Hopkinton Police Department, and I'll get back to you. And you have a question?
Chief, can we have somebody sit at the top of Maxon Hill and Diamond Hill? They are blowing that stoplight, that stop sign, and I live right there. I am gonna get hit. My kids, everybody who lives right there, they're gonna get hit. Those tractor-trailer trucks are blowing through that stop. They don't even stop. They don't even put their brakes on. They're just going through. And somebody was on Maxon Hill, on Collins Road, and laid on the horn at the truck driver, and he flipped them off.
Well, if you're seeing anything going on at that time, please call us. We've had our officers out on Maxon Hill because we got 2 complaints out there, and if you saw that there was the speed sign on there, you just gotta recognize that we can't be everywhere because
You can sit in my driveway and watch them. I have times that every single truck comes through. My mother-in-law stays at home and she checks me, another truck, right through the stop sign.
And I don't disagree with you, and I will mention that to my officers, but just recognize probably in any given week, I probably get 3 complaints on any given 3 different streets.
I get it.
So we try to put our speed signs out there. We write a lot of tickets, we really do. But feel free to send me an email or give me a call.
You
guys seem to control Collins Road pretty good. But Maxon Hill Road, what she's saying about those trucks, I got pictures on my phone doing exactly what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And not just that, these trucks are huge. I have a truck. You're barely allowed any room on those roads. These things are huge.
Right, my husband drives a big box truck for the town of Westerly because he's an electrician. He can't go down Maxon Hill if they're coming up. They can't do it. There's no way.
Well, hopefully, it sounds like after the town manager mentioned after tomorrow, that should resolve itself. But I will put it out to my officers that that's been a problem area, especially now that the
trucks, they're taking the blocks
I'm
out.
gonna take a
They're
look.
gonna keep taking blocks out of those roads.
You come sit at my house.
I'll put that in the email as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I also ask from you, whenever we're having these discussions, I know you want to get your viewpoint out, but yelling from the audience is disruptive to the person that's up here. So please be cognizant of that fact. Thank you.
Yeah. The only thing I wanted to mention to the chief is that in a residence, I had an issue on Old Depot Road, and the chief and his officers responded real quick. They took care of a problem probably in a matter of days that I was dealing with for a few months. So I appreciate that, and they do have a lot to cover, but we bring it to their attention. They will be out there, and they will stop there. I was there this morning, as I said earlier this morning, and those trucks just come flying by with the school buses on that road. It's a matter of time. It really is.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Steve Wheel, Old Depot. Just as you're talking about this construction ordinance, we're going round and round with it, and it's not like, I've lived in a lot of places involved in law enforcement in the past. Why don't we have a town ordinance that makes it an ordinance to do construction noise? Forget about one project, but does construction noise in general, from Monday through Friday, from these hours to this hour, and on weekends, starting from this hour to this hour, and you make it an ordinance throughout the town. And when the officers get called out, they're not playing paper pusher and taking paper that's going to sit in an administrator's desk. The police can go out there with an actual ordinance behind them that attaches fines, and they can address it. They go out once, they tell them you're starting too early, they go out another time, now they start costing them money. And if they continue to stop, then they move it up along the line. But it's not hard to do that. I really think it would be something that would be productive year-round throughout the town. So that would be my own suggestion.
It's a good idea.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, you can wait. If you don't mind, Tammy, she's been out her hand up for a while.
Lisa Rapsau, 171 Devonton Road. I just have a few things. First, I want to agree, I understand we shouldn't be taking away property owner rights. If somebody came and offered me a boatload of money to sell my house up for a project or something, it would be hard to turn away to take care of my family and my friends, etc. I think that we shouldn't ever be put in that position by our previous town council to make that decision between, profiting off of our property and, messing up our neighbors' properties. Second of all, I agree also about the trucks. One of them, maybe me that you were talking about, that went to the stop sign, and I had my 2 kids in the car, and didn't stop, and then flipped me off. And I talked to Jim about that on the phone, and he was very nice and helpful. I also spoke with him that day about another proposed solar that is going to be going in partly behind my house, if it goes through, which, if you're sitting in my dining room and I have a big window and it's very pretty, it's my favorite room in the house, if this does go in, it will be my only view out of that room. So right now, I'm trying to talk my husband into moving out of Hopkinton because before it's too late, basically, we feel like, which I think is really sad because we moved here despite knowing how high the taxes are, how inconvenient it is to have to drive anywhere to get groceries, etc. But we did it anyways because, we like the layout. But now honestly, I just want to leave. Especially being at these meetings, it's just very tricky. I don't like it at all. I do agree with one of the comments made on Facebook that it felt very condescending for me to even be up here. It's very nerve-wracking because I don't think that it changes anything. And I'm leaving my family at home to come to these meetings, a workshop. I missed the planning meeting last time because, it's hard to leave your family and come to these things, especially when something's not going to change. It sort of feels like, what's the point? But my last question is, Sylvia, I believe at the last meeting you made some sort of promise to speak with the developer to attend a meeting. Will the developer be at this workshop? Is that what's happening? Because
Yeah, I haven't heard anything back, so I'll contact him and find out when he's going to have this meeting, and I gathered it's separate. It's entirely separate. That's something he wants to meet with the neighbors and talk about his project, the Maxon Hill. That's fine. He wants to use this room. That's fine. But it's not part of this.
So the workshop
But I don't.
Then when the developer,
It would be separate, yeah. That's my understanding.
Anything, there's no plan.
I haven't heard anything yet. No.
And will that be something that's posted on the town website, or is it something that we're supposed to?
He's got, that's his thing, and he's got to contact the abutters and let them know. And once that happens, word will get out amongst the neighbors that he's going to do it. But I haven't heard anything yet. You haven't heard from him? No.
Oh, yeah, is there a plan to keep following up? I mean...
I'll just call him. I'll just call him tomorrow and find out when is he going to do this.
Yeah,
So.
okay. So.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, Tammy.
Tammy Walsh, 229 Woodville Road. I have a few things. The first thing, and I don't know if you can answer this because it is a question. I attended the Community Shred Day on Saturday.
I didn't see you.
I was there at 5 minutes of 8.
That's why.
And they were, I expected I was going to have to wait until 8 o'clock. They had the trucks there, everything was set up. They came out of their trucks. They were very, very pleasant, accommodating. I'm curious if we have any idea how many people actually went to this. And I say that because I sent an email out to the people that I know in town And they were like, really? We knew nothing about this. And I know it's not an insignificant cost to put this together. So, you know, as much as I think it's wonderful, right? And the only reason I remembered it is because I was cleaning out a room, and underneath a bunch of things, I found a cardboard box that was filled with a bunch of paperwork that needed to be shredded. And that was on Friday. Okay, so, you know, I'm not trying to be critical of the fact, but I really think if we're going to do these things and we're doing them for the community, they should be made aware of them. And it was talked about at a town council meeting, at least a couple of town council meetings.
And also, we advertised in the Westerly Sun.
It was advertised in the Westerly Sun on 2 separate occasions.
Okay, well,
No, let me finish.
Lots of people don't get the Westerly Sun.
Well,
So, you know, I'm just saying, I appreciate that, but I'm just saying that there are lots of people that, if we're going to use just the Westerly Sun to advertise something like that, I'm not sure that that's the best thing. Well, I'm just offering that.
Yeah, so yeah, the Westerly Sun as well as the town website, I reached out to as many people as I could, like you did. And I talked to the recycled person that was there, that we had, gave the bid to, and he said sometimes you have to tweak it. Sometimes he thinks maybe the spring, people are used to spring cleaning type of thing, so it might be more productive in the spring. But as far as the number, I guess DPW would probably be able to figure that out. There wasn't as many as I would have liked to.
You know, again, I'm not trying to be critical, I'm just offering that as something that I observed from the people that I spoke to. They went and they said they were like the only ones there when they went throughout the day. So anyway.
But I wonder how many people even do that, because all the paperwork we have, I didn't bring it. I mean, we recycle and we use some to start wood fires, and a lot of people have wood stoves, so I don't know how much interest there is in it.
Well, all I know is I've gone down to Washington Trust for their community shred day, and there have been 50 people in front of me, 45 minutes before it starts. It's a zoo. So, you know, I think that it would be used if it was better advertised. But anyway, that's just a comment. I appreciate your plan to get rid of my box.
With the sign,
Pardon?
flying over the airplane.
Yeah,
That's the only thing.
that costs money, we don't want to do that. So I have another question, and I don't know if it can be answered. But Frank, you mentioned that the reason why the workshop was on tonight's agenda was because 2 of the other counselors thought that that would be a good thing to do.
Well, yeah, let me just clarify. They had questions about certain items on the agenda or wanting to put them on, and I felt because of both requests, they could be intermingled and put on at a workshop so that we could address all the issues.
And I believe you said that you don't take requests from the public to put things on the agenda.
Correct.
So tell me how, please. How can somebody in the public get something of concern to them on the agenda? Do we have to go to an individual and say, would you please talk to Frank about this? And then it doesn't happen?
Well, again, this particular case is different, Tammy. It's being litigated, as you know.
I know, but I'm asking this question not just about Maxim Hill, because there have been other times in the past where people have asked about things and they haven't been put on the agenda.
You can reach out to council members and have them sponsor something, whatever.
Okay.
And if it warrants the town's business, then fine, we'll put it on.
I'll give you an example. The wind turbines. I heard from I don't know how many different people that they had an issue with wind turbines, and so I asked that it go on the agenda, and we went through the hearing and the changes, and we did, and it passed. There's no wind turbines allowed in town, but that's an example of how, from the public, we don't just think of things on our own. It usually comes from people in the public, so that does work that way.
Okay.
But I hear what you're saying.
I think you do know what I'm saying, so, okay, done. So that said, I have some really, and I don't expect a response, I'm just gonna talk, okay? okay, so. I have some very grave concerns over Mr. Landolfi's ability to properly execute his responsibilities as a member of the town council and as president of said body. And I go on to say there have been numerous requests in the past about things that we wanted to get on the agenda. They were not put on, so thus I asked this question earlier, so I don't really need to say much more about that, except that I feel like our ability to engage in the democratic process is being stymied. And other people have mentioned that. And I had something I was going to say, and I feel like it's really not right to say it, but I feel like you fancy yourself as the king of Hopkinton, and the rest of us are serfs in this town. I'm not asking you to respond. I don't even want you to respond. I just want to talk. Because, you know, I've been up here a few times.
Well, that's the point, Tammy. You always want to talk, but you don't let anyone else you don't want me to respond.
You can respond when I'm done talking, okay? How's that? Because that's what you say to us.
You don't want me to respond.
I have no, if you want to respond, you're welcome to respond. I don't expect you to respond, okay? Another item. It has been noted in ongoing correspondence as well as during public forums at previous town council meetings. This goes to Max and Hill, so I don't expect you to say anything about it. That the application for that project was applied for by an entity that was not authorized to do business at the time that they applied. In addition, the town council approved that application by ordinance. I find that very disturbing. In addition, a solar building permit seems to have been prematurely issued before all of the conditions of the project plan were met. That was mentioned by some other people earlier. And specifically about that, it had to do with the reforestation bond, and the planning board had not had an opportunity to finalize that. So to me, this raises a bunch of serious issues about how downtown government operates. There's a clearly stated process on what's supposed to happen with building solar permits for them to be issued. And it seems that that process has not been followed. Whether or not you agree with whether you like the project or don't like the project, you have to have a process. And we, as the public and residents of this town, expect people in this town to follow them. It's just beyond me. You know, in my previous life, people had to follow the rules at the company I worked for, and if they didn't, something happened. There were repercussions. So it really seems clear to me that Mr. Landolfi and possibly other town council members fail to see the seriousness of these transgressions, and that the lapses are putting the town of Hopkins at serious financial risk. It seems to me that Mr. Landolfi is not prepared to act to have the solar building permit revoked. Now, I know you can't do that yourself. It has to be through the zoning department. But it seems to me that it should be revoked or at the very least suspended. I understand no one will respond to this, but I respectfully ask if any of the other, and there are only 3 other town councilors here tonight, Barbara's not here, if you find these matters concerning, and if you're willing to do something to rectify the situation. I don't normally get this upset about stuff. I usually come up here and try to be very calm and metered, but I've been coming to these meetings for 1.5 years now, and I'm getting tired of coming here and feeling like nothing is happening. At any rate, having a workshop, that's great, that will be a wonderful thing, but I don't think it should be viewed as a substitute for some immediate action relative to the building permit. Carol DeRozier made the comment, and I echo it. I call for you to resign from your position as president. Would you like to respond?
Yes, just very briefly. You know, I've given everyone a chance to talk. You know, I'm not judge, jury, and executioner. I asked before this last term if 2 council people in particular, if they wanted to be president. They declined. Okay, so it wasn't something that I sought out, I just worked really hard at it. I know you are diametrically opposed to everything I do, that's your position, and I have mine. And so to sit there and criticize whether I want to put something that you want on the agenda for whatever reason, that's just not true. I have to go through the town clerk, the town manager, the solicitor, we all collaborate to have anything on the agenda, and it's town business. And I'll take requests from councilors if it warrants going on the agenda. But your comments about, me, Judge, jury, it's not true. I work harder than anyone up here, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody. I work really hard at it, and I've done it for 10 years. And that's why I think I'm here. But, we'll see what happens, in a year or so. But again, I want you to know that it's a collaboration to get something on the agenda. And if you have any particular interest, you can go through a council member and have them talk to me about it and see if it warrants getting on the town business.
I appreciate you clarifying that, and I do want to say that I appreciate, even if I disagree with you, I appreciate the fact that you give as much time as you do, as do all the other councilors, to serving on the town council, because I wouldn't do it, honestly. It's a thankless job.
I've asked you to do it.
Yes, you have. It's a thankless job. And you know what? You'd have to pay me more money than you pay anybody in the town to sit up there and do what you do. So I do appreciate that. But I hope you understand the frustration that not just I, but that most people in this room, regardless of what side of the fence you sit on, people are frustrated. And they want something to happen, and they don't want the can to be kicked down the road farther and farther.
Well, if I can just comment one quick tidbit on that last comment. If the project wasn't in litigation, Tammy, it could go on the agenda. It's just really difficult. I have to screen items on the agenda through the solicitor's office, and I happen to agree with this assessment. I can override this assessment, but I actually agree with him that it shouldn't be, and it should be litigated in court and not in a council meeting. Certainly not a public forum.
That's fine.
So.
Oh, Tammy, about the building permit, I can respond briefly and just say that any time anything is improperly done, and we know it's improperly done, and we have proof, it doesn't get kicked down the road. So the issue is whether or not that's true or not, and that will be decided.
Yeah, but I would
Just so you know, it's not like hanging in the air, nobody's
So
dealing with it.
that's part of the discovery that you guys have.
No, I'm not talking about the discovery, I'm just talking about whether something's right or wrong.
Okay.
And we'll find out whether something's right or wrong, and if it's wrong, we'll deal with it.
I'm just concerned not whether or not, well, I do concern that applications are filled out correctly, but also there needs to be a verification that these businesses are recognized by the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantation, and their status is current, and their credentials are not expired. That's the issue. So you can have everything else, and if you don't do that extra step and check whether or not they're valid companies to do business in the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantation, it's really irrelevant if they do everything else correct.
So maybe that's something that needs to be added to the procedure so that things are done.
Right. It needs to be put on the application.
Okay,
And
thank
there
you.
needs to be somebody in the town responsible for checking that. I think we maybe naively thought that anybody who would apply for something like this, would have crossed all their T's and dotted all their I's. And if that's not the case, we really weren't set up.
Because we're all honest people.
Yeah, right, we weren't really set up to double check something like that, but we will.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Joe, briefly, because I haven't heard from Luke.
Joe Moreau, Old Depot Road. I just want to make a comment that the town does take care of senior citizens. They do get a break on their taxes. If you apply as a percentage based on income, you could get 60% off on your taxes. So there is a mechanism to help our senior citizens. Listening to all this conversation, it really stands out that there's a double standard here. Tammy and Carol were both speaking during a public forum. And yet you commented after on what Carol had to say. You commented on what Tammy had to say, which I don't understand. And at least my last point is on October 21st, town council meeting, I was speaking during a public forum about the court case. And at that point, I mentioned about the court case moving forward. But what I didn't realize was that there were 2 court cases. And Kevin stood up and corrected me that, and explained to me about the 2 different court cases. I explained at that point that I thought this was public forum, and here we are having a conversation. And I was told that they could answer this question, or you could speak to this because it was a legal case. Those are the exact words, that it was a legal case. So now tonight, you can't comment. The other thing I want to comment on is Stubbtown Road. I went to Lisa, I put it in writing, and I asked for that to be an agenda item because there were comments about revenue for the town, and I thought that would be an ideal point, is to get some revenue from Stubbtown Road down. It wasn't on the agenda. I spoke to Lisa, I said, what's the process? Because I didn't know. She explained to me that the town council president would decide. I said, okay. So I spoke to the town council president. I was told that there'd be a workshop the first of the year. Never happened. The workshop never happened. Fortunately, Bill and Jim picked up the ball and they proceeded with Stubbtown Road, and there's a lengthy process, but at least it's going forward. My question for informational purposes is, what developer are we talking about to be at this workshop? I'd like to know what the developer's name is.
That the developer wants to have a workshop? His thing, not our thing? That guy?
You had mentioned about asking the developer to explain about Maxim.
That's Del Vicario, and Tony.
Okay, so the last question I have for informational purposes, I'm not sure it's going to get answered. Who is the developer? Why would Anthony Del Vicario be there if he's not the developer of that project? I was understood it was sold to Green Development. Just had to close it. Why is Del Vicario coming to a meeting? I know he was invited to our town way back when, looking for solar on public buildings, and I agree with that, but I don't understand why Anthony Del Vicario would be at a workshop when he has, at this point, from what I could see, he's not the owner.
Well, as far as I know, he's in charge. It's his thing, it's his development. He's the one that presented it with Vinnie Navarado, the original hearing.
He sold it. It's sold. They had to close it.
Well, the closing hasn't gone through yet.
Well.
So there you go.
I was told they had to close it.
Anyway, by the way, about the Stubbtown, you know that I started the Stubbtown issue with the dump. You know that I wanted to use that for a dump. You know that I worked with the town, that I got some plans together, that we discussed it at a meeting that we would move forward. And every now and then it's been on the agenda with the town manager's report, and he reports on the progress we're making at the dump so that we can eventually put in solar. So why would we put it on the agenda when he reports on it? Joe, you keep bringing it up like we're not doing stuff and we're working on it.
What I'm saying is, it wasn't brought up from Bill or Jim until I kept pushing this issue about Stubbtown Road.
I pushed it before you even ever
came
to a meeting.
You did.
So what's your problem?
I don't have a problem, I have a point. And my point is, I was told by someone that there was an email that was sent to you concerning Eon Walsh from Newport Renewable, and it was about a month prior, and that nothing was done. I spoke to Eon Walsh, and he works for Newport Renewable, who had an interest in Stubbtown Road down.
Oh, there are developers that are interested,
Right.
but I don't care. We don't care who they are, because whenever we get to the point of actually doing work at Stubbtown, we go out to bid.
That's fine, I understand
So
that.
anybody who can express an interest, that's fine, but they're not going to get.
And I know you started with it somewhere along the line. Eon Walsh never heard back from you or anyone else on the council about it. And that's when I started to push with it. That's
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. All right, skip a little.
My name's Hillary, I was 88.
Back of the bus, huh?
I live at 259 Collins Road. I'm not an abutter, but I am someone that wants to stand up for the other people around me. I really feel that this is, all these solar projects are really something, to say the least. I literally cried. I cry almost every other day, just driving by the destruction. My soul hurts, my literal soul that I have as a being. It has nothing to do with money for me. I'm really sorry if that is something for other people, but for me, it has nothing to do about money. It has everything to do about the future of our children, the future of our environment, what is going to be into our waters. Where are the solar panels going when they are defunct in 20 to 30 years? Let's think about those questions. If we're going to have these workshops, I'd like to be able to make them, but I have a 2-year-old. He's my priority. He has been for 2 years. I had no idea all this was going on because my priorities are my son. But I'm growing out of that, and I really, really want to come to these meetings more. This is an eye-opening experience. I have a problem with the trucks on Maxon Hill Road, driving my son to school every morning. Logging trucks every single morning around, it's about 7:45. Very dangerous on Maxon Hill Road around the corners. Was a very big concern of mine, walking my dog. I'm an avid dog walker, maybe you've seen me, I have a red dog. I run. I really don't appreciate all this action on the roads. There's a list of things. I'm part of the Historical Association here in Hopkinton. I'm really sad that I don't see many of those people here tonight because this is history. We are making history in this town right now. I think about this every day. I'm sad for the ancestors. I'm sad for the people that are not here anymore to see this because I think they'd be crying with me. Like I said, maybe this is a sad story, but it is. It's a sad story in our town. It runs deep. Our roots run deep. We feel it like the trees. Literally, they speak to each other. You cut a beech tree down, 3 beech trees feel it on the other side. Okay? There's feelings. The abutters feel this. I feel it walking. I feel it running. I understand if you own acres and you need to sell this because you need the money. But have some respect for the people around you too. Where's the solar plan? I wanted to see the handbook that's out there that tells me this is what we expect from every landowner that has 60+ acres. I want to see that in writing. I think we all deserve that in this town. We need clear-cut decisions made. I want answers. My son is going to want answers in 20 years. I want answers in 20 years. If not, I want to leave. I want to leave this town. Just like this other woman back here. I've talked to my husband. This is the first time I've ever wanted to leave. 15 years I've been a resident in this area. So these are my concerns. Let's think beyond money sometimes. It can go hand in hand, okay? Because we're destroying what we have. You walk through our woods, we have historical landmarks, we have spiritual centers that we've been finding. Do you know what happens when you pull out roots of trees? You don't know what's there anymore. Okay, we don't know what's there anymore. That's now gone. We have no history of that, do we? I'm not sure. We've lost our history. We're losing it. If you walk across the street from this Maxon Hill project, we have caves, okay? We found caves with archaeological findings. Let's think about this. You take about 10 feet back. Do you really think that there's no archaeological findings back there? So these are the things we need to think about when we make these decisions, okay? Please put that in consideration. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Let me start by apologizing for the back of the bus comment.
No worries.
You didn't deserve that.
No worries, my friend.
Well, we took it as a joke.
It was meant.
Luther Davis, 100 Cedarwood Lane. I know, Frank, that you often keep track of the time with your cell phone, something I'm not really good at, but I use the watch. But if you think about the number of people who came, who expressed an interest in issues related to the workshop, there was quite a few people who didn't really get to express their opinion. And if they all came to the workshop, and you blend that workshop with a town council meeting, and I'm not really trying to make you delay the workshop, what you're going to run up against is, do you close the thing down at 10 o'clock, or do you let it stay open till midnight? And you might want to consider not blending the town council meeting with the workshop. That's the kind of thing that happened, when the planning board had their workshop. We started out where we were seeing, oh, there's not that many people here. 15 minutes after it started, the thing, the place was full. And we had a lot of people there. That's all I have.
Yeah, when we schedule, we'll have to talk about it. Thanks. Yes. Anyone else? Right now? Yes, sir.
My name's William Cotton. I live at 286 Collins Road. I agree with that lady over there that it hurts to see all these trees get rooted up. The animals that I used to love that were in my yard, the birds, the owls, they're gone. I got coyotes now, almost every night howling through my yard. Bears are coming through the yard like I haven't seen in the last 2.5 years. The trucks, they suck. I mean, they come through the stop signs like these ladies were saying over here. I seen the person that was getting flipped off. I actually have a picture on my cell phone. I stopped right at the bottom of the hill to take a picture of this truck going by the stop signs. It's incredible. I wish you guys really made a little bit of a better decision. Maybe doing the workshop before the project, maybe before the vote, to see what these solar farms really do to communities. Because I came out here 2.5 years ago, it was beautiful. All of a sudden, you go down 95, you go up Maxon Hill Road, and that's all you see. You go to Channel School, there's about 3 or 4. When are you guys going to stop? When are you guys going to put some legislation through to halt this, or at least stop it? Because I really don't care about the taxes. I'll pay. It's about my kids. It's about my future. I wanted to retire here. I don't think I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank?
Yes.
You not gonna fill in?
On the amendment, January 26th?
Oh, well, yeah, just so you'll know, we do have an ordinance. The gentleman in the back that just spoke. Bill. Excuse me, please don't leave.
What?
I'm answering a question.
Yeah, I wanted you to know that in January 22nd, we amended the solar ordinance, so there will be no more, let me put it this way, there'll be no more large solar development in town in residential areas. Any residential area now is of January 22nd, if they want to put in for a development and they have land and it's residential and they want to zone it commercial, they can only do 3% or 3 acres, whatever's the lesser amount, and only can they do more if the planning board decides, the planning board has the authority to allow more solar on a particular piece if they think that it's the right thing to do. So far, the planning board has not wanted to do that, so I think the likelihood of that is not going to happen. However, January 22nd, we did put a halt on it, so there won't be any more. There are a few that did put in prior to that deadline, so we'll see what happens.
All I gotta say is, if you look at Maxon Hill Road, you can see Main Street. You can hear traffic now.
And I also wanted you to know, because we would report on this in the workshop, when you drive all over town and you see solar everywhere, most of the only projects that the council has done are very few. We've done 3 large ones and two sandbanks. We did 91, we did Route 91, we did the 310, and we approved something for Skunk Hill development. Those are the 3 developments that the town council here, or the last council, approved. And all the ones that are all over the place, that you see scattered all over, they're either by right, because it's already commercial, and then that's the planning board. So all those other projects are a planning board thing. If you can see them, talk to the planning board. If you don't like where they are, or if you don't like the setbacks, talk to the planning board on all of those issues. Maxon Hill belongs here, yes.
Okay, but even going to Chandler School, I don't know if you guys think that, but they're taking Logwoods. I mean, it was dark there, now they're taking Logwoods and you can see more of it. Why?
That's Richmond, yeah. And Richmond's put a halt to more solar as
I
well.
wish you guys would just put a halt to the solar until you
We
figure
did.
out. Yeah, but even on residential. I mean, really, until you figure out what all this stuff is gonna be recycled and so forth, just put a stop to it. I mean, I don't even care about the solar ones, man, fine with that, that only takes like maybe the size of this room. But you guys are killing the land. Sorry. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll be quick, Eric.
Over drive. I just want to say I've always held the town council, I've always respected you, starting when we moved here in 2001, so we kind of came in on the big box ordeal, and I've followed pretty regularly, not always because, like Lisa Rosso, I'm raising my family, so I can't always get here. But to say I've always thought all of the councilors have had the best interest of the town at heart. Honestly, I do. I think at this point, you just are in so far over your heads with this, and it's unfortunate. I just want to know, is this how you thought it would be? Is this the result you expected? Did you expect to see the devastation on Maxon Hill, or was that a surprise to you? I think when they were talking about, and I'm not saying I agree, but your dismissive attitude, or maybe they just want to say or hear you say, it's not what I expected, and I'm sorry, or it's almost like you don't care, and I don't know if this is what you expected to happen. Was this in your mind that Maxon Hill, you approved it? This is what was going to happen?
Well, I'll answer that. It's not that I don't care. So as far as what I expected, I read the plans, we had hearings on various projects, and I voted the best way I thought I needed to vote in the best interest of the town.
Right.
Because of the comprehensive plan, it's our blueprint for development, right? And the financial piece of it.
Right.
We have a charitable bill that's out of control every year, goes up $400,000 or $500,000 a year. 3, 5, 7 years ago, we're all looking at each other, where are we going to get the money? It was the long-term plan that I had to have 4 to 7 council-approved projects. And we've got just about that now. We've modified the ordinance. So there has been a plan. If anybody wants to talk about what I thought and why I voted the way I voted, you can call me. I'll have a discussion with you, and I'll tell you. But, you know, I work very hard and very honest, and I'm very straightforward. And you can call me anytime, and I'll go to your house, have coffee, whatever. Anything you want. So I just want you to know, your trust in the council before should be continued. Because again, we have 2 different thought processes on solar, obviously. And I have a different thought on it because of my background's in banking, and I care about the tax rate. So I've tried to do the best I can with that. And I thought this was somewhat of an answer, you know.
So can I respond?
Yeah.
Frank and I both studied poli-sci at the URI, and Councilor Davis and I have been the anti-solar people, if you will, on the town council. I think large anti-solar. But the fact of the matter is, and my issue is, I know we have at least one educator in the audience, but until we completely be honest about the continuing reliance on property taxes to fund education, that is my real issue. If I could change anything, and no matter how much money we raise, like the wind turbines, 2 wind turbines wouldn't even come to educate 1 child in a public school system. Until the cities and towns, the 39 cities and towns, we get together as a unified block and take on the state of Rhode Island and tell the General Assembly to spend more money on kids so we can run general government, and because property taxes don't take into account your ability to pay. It works against families who have to clothe children, pay their property taxes and other things. It impacts people that don't have any children also. And that's what we have to do. I think getting 50,000 on economic development, 25,000 is a drop in the bucket. And I think the time, I hope it's soon, we got to get real about holding the state accountable for financing public education in Rhode Island. Thank you.
And not by solar. I appreciate your time.
Yes, Eric.
I would just like to respond to something that Councilor Thompson said. Councilor Thompson said that when constituents bring to the town council some evidence of something that they think was done improperly, that the town council will examine it and act on it. As you know, I'm not a plaintiff in the lawsuit that was filed January 9th, 2019, and I'm not wheeling up a big Trojan horse here to subvert the legal process, as the town solicitor says, and engineer some backdoor attack. But I didn't have a crystal ball, and neither did you, on January 9th, 2019, to foresee all the future additional improprieties that might occur. Now, I brought some of those to your attention, and I think that you can determine independently whether or not these merit your attention, whether or not a building permit was prematurely issued, whether or not it got in the way of the planning board performing its proper function. And that's completely independent. Obviously, nothing that happened after January of this year is included in any kind of legal complaint that was filed in January. That's separate and distinct from it, and you do have a responsibility as the legislature in this town, and you basically function as the executive body as well. You do have a responsibility to make sure that these processes, as Tammy was so frustrated in expressing her disappointment, that these rules and regulations and laws are followed, right? So it's not a tactic, and it's not a diversionary tactic. It's nothing like that. It's just asking that you exercise due care and seeing that everything is done properly, and that includes things that have been done, I mean, this is a long process for any project to go through all the stages of approval. And there are things that have been brought to your attention, and we're just asking you to follow up on those. There's nothing unreasonable about that. I'm not asking you to give me any kind of ruling tonight either. I was going to ask some factual questions, but I was told that, because it's in litigation, you can't even answer a question as to whether or not something occurred on a particular date. Anyway, never mind about that. That's all I want to say about that. I'm going to hold Councilor Thompson, I hope I can take you at your word that you will follow up, and determine if everything was done properly. And then I just do want to comment, there's been so much talk about how you've allowed the public to come, and you've had public hearings and lots of public meetings. And I just hope it isn't lost on you, and I hope it isn't lost on anyone in the town government. The town planner puts out a regular report, the Hopkinton Solar Development Overview. And the actual number of projects that the town council has approved is 6 already. There's 2 more that the town council president voted for that were huge, which would make 8. Which lost by a narrow margin, and then there was a 7th one that was denied, and there's still 1, 2, 3, 4, there's still 6 more.
What's the 6 we did? There was 91.
You did Bank Street.
Yeah.
You did Alton Bradford. You did High Street. You did 310 Main. You did Arcadia Road, Lisa Lane. You did 145 Skunk Hill Road.
That's one.
Well, those are
Skunk
separate.
Hill's
Those
one.
were put in front of you as separate.
Yeah, there was one project, Skunk Hill.
Okay.
So it's 5.
They're on the list.
2 sand banks.
The list is, there's actually, this list, if you want to call that, you want to combine those, then that makes a list of 14 projects that would have required a zone change. These are changes to the comprehensive plan that you approved in February 2018. And it's no accident that developers have descended upon us asking for zone changes, and I think almost every single one, not a single one of these, I know you can say that, I don't know about the High Street and stuff, but most of them have been disapproved or not approved by the planning board, and you proceeded with them anyway. And the total list of projects, when you include, you know, the manufacturing, is only 7. There's only 7 on here that were manufacturing zones. So you have 31 on here, right? And what this gentleman's talking about driving around is, in a very short period of time, maybe 3 years, you know, 31 projects have been proposed. We've been force-fed these projects. Every single one of them had to go to the planning board for at least 1 meeting, probably an average of 2. So that's probably 60 planning board meetings. And then the 14 of these projects that have to go through for zone changes, probably they have to go to the town council for a minimum of 2 meetings, and probably, well, on average 3. One of them, Atlantic Solar Main Street, is going to be 9 the next time we meet. So that's something like, I mean, I can't even do the math. It's probably 90 meetings over the past 3 years. I mean, you're asking us as citizens who want to engage with your plan, and for all intents and purposes, because you also voted the farm viability ordinance, you're asking us to engage in this process of these solar projects in all of our neighborhoods, and you want to know why people don't leave their 2-year-olds at home and go to 90 meetings a year if they're interested in weighing in. That's a hell of a lot of meetings. That's an awful lot of change you're asking for in 1 year. So I think you ought to at least understand that this program that you've embarked on has been, I mean, to call it wildly ambitious doesn't even begin to summarize, you know, what it is. The amount, and it's been incredibly demanding for any citizen that wants to pay attention to all this.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I want to enter this into the record, the list of projects and the map. We're fortunate enough, by the way, to have Emily Shumchaney on the planning board as a professional planner, and she just got curious and said, hey, I have the tools to do this, I'm going to do a map. She did this map for you. And she, I've given this to you a few times, and this isn't even the updated version, but, and I know the president doesn't like it when I say this, but you can tell from this, there's old Hopkinton, you can imagine what it used to look like, and then there's Swiss cheese Hopkinton, which is what we have now if you put every proposal on.
Mr. President, I move we adjourn in memory of Ruby Wilcox.
I don't know if everybody's done.
Anyone else?
I have something unrelated.
Can you do it really quick?
Yeah, I can. It was more a matter of just information. It was brought to my attention, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, that there's a researcher at URI who has a research grant to put together a questionnaire that will go out to, I don't know, some group of people in the whole state of Rhode Island relative to solar siting, siting of solar projects. And they were looking for people to be in these focus groups because they were trying to figure out like how, not whether or not you want them or what you think about where they go, but how to ask their questions, what kinds of questions to ask to elicit information that would be helpful to them. And which I thought was really great. Now, of course, by the time they get this thing done, you know, it's going to be probably a year from now. And my comment to him was, it really would have been nice if this could have been done before our governor decided that we were going to have this goal of a certain amount of renewable energy in the state. And I guess the only reason I bring this up is because I feel like it might be helpful if the town council would be willing to consider perhaps sending something to the governor to explain to her how her actions have impacted our town. I think that that's a really big thing. And you know, there are some towns that are dealing with the same thing as us. There are others that aren't. But it might be helpful for her to understand, like how you need to think of, and we're finding out you really need to think about these things before you do something. And I think if all of us knew 2 years ago, 3 years ago, what we know now, we might have come to a different decision. And so I kind of feel like part of the problem comes from higher up, just like it does with funding the schools and everything else. That's all. Just sitting here thinking about it, that I just wanted to.
Tammy, I did attend one of those sessions.
Mr. President, I move that we adjourn in memory of Ruby Wilcox.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.